Good morning, everybody. This is the news roundup for Monday after the Thanksgiving holiday weekend. We're going to talk about a murder trial in Arizona. It's been conducted in Phoenix, the capital, for quite some time now. The crime originally occurred in June of 2008, and this was the murder of Travis Alexander, who was a resident at the time, and they have convicted his girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, ex-fiance, wife, ex-wife, ex-estranged lover, whatever. Jodi Arias is her name, and if you don't know by now, I will give you more of a recap in about a minute. But the latest phase of the litigations is called the penalty phase of this trial, and in the state of Arizona there is capital punishment. So since she's been convicted of murder 1, it basically means that she could get the death penalty. So in this final phase of the proceedings, they're going to decide what's her fate. Now, many months ago, when she was convicted as guilty, this came up, and it's a very emotional issue, no matter which side you take, or even if you try to remain neutral. People who wanted to get justice for the murder victim, Travis Alexander, especially his family and friends, they really wanted to see her die, because they said that it would be apt, or it would be fair, because she took his life. Now, on the other hand, a lot of people were saying it's not right to take a life for another life, like an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, which is the Hammurabi Code from the ancient justice. Rather barbaric to us these days, but not really, because we have capital punishment in some cases. So people were saying she could reform, she has a whole life in front of her, her age is only about just around 30, if she's even 30, correct me if I'm wrong. And they said she could do some good, even if she's in prison for life. And so there's a lot of emotions tied up with this. Now, let's just say that we're not going to see this televised live on TV, because the judge has made a decision that it will be kept confidential. This is like an about face, because the judge had the opposite stance and let everything get televised up to this point, and it was on that Nancy Grace channel, the everything about high-profile cases, celebrity cases, cases that they want to focus on. So I guess they will be losing out on this one. If you go to their channel, it'll be something else altogether different, but maybe just as interesting to those crime buffs out there. But here's the thing. Let's talk about Jodi Arias, which when I first found out about the case, I was fascinated, but I think we have to take away these points no matter what. It's the fact that women can be dangerous, just as dangerous as men. Maybe not in the quantity of the amount of women that snap, but when they do they basically are prone to commit the same actions, slicing and stabbing and shooting and all that. And a pretty face or a delicate body, a gentle curve on the hip, shouldn't cause anyone to give more mercy or call for lenience. I think that that would be a heinous double standard. If you want to know how to solve this, you need to punish those women more severely. Because as a society, we expect the women to be more restrained or reserved or gentle or feminine. If there's no such thing as feminine, then we just have to put it in the history books and call ourselves an androgynous society, where the female kind has just as much testosterone surging through its veins. Is that what's wrong with Jodi Arias? I wouldn't have any mercy on somebody like that, because they set a very bad example, and there are a lot of younger women watching. There are many still in school, high school especially. That's a very impressionable time. They might act like they're all mature and, yeah, we're so cool, we've got the future all ahead of us, we own it. But they're naive. They don't understand that everything they watch is basically telling them what to do. They absorb it like a sponge. So, what am I talking about as far as no mercy? Well, they've already done that. It's been a conviction. I think the evidence was speaking for that. So it wasn't a question. But as far as what to do with her, I think that the life in prison is sufficient, but I think that there should be special restrictions on somebody like that. I don't believe that they should mix in with the normal or regular prison population. I'm glad I don't have to decide on whether she should be executed. But apparently it is going to be for a jury to decide. So a group is going to have to come together and collectively hand down that decision. Now, this is a lot about relationships, isn't it? I mean, I haven't said anything about Travis Alexander, but it takes two to tango. I'm sure he wasn't the lovely poster child of eligible bachelor, like some are cracking him up to be. I'm sure that the two of them together just set each other off in the worst way. He seems to be a bit of a exhibitionist and a womanizer. And to tell you the truth, if these two became a couple and were married under the Mormon Church, which I think is being covered up to some extent or being ignored, but if they were married, then he has an obligation to end the relationship in the right way. And if he didn't do that, obviously this is one of the things that pushed her buttons. Now you can say, well, she had it in her anyhow. Yeah, I think so, because it's karma. I think they got together to create some kind of a situation together and make it as a public media spectacle. I believe that. I believe that it had to be known. But whether or not they acted out is up to human choice. They chose to go through with it that way. We all have that kind of a thing in front of us. So if we're in relationships, a relationship can be the most difficult thing to go through. And sometimes it really seems like we're being abused and mistreated, and the next step is considering revenge. Taking vengeance, or take justice in your own hands. Love can soon turn to hatred and murdering. That's very common. How many people out there have had relationships and you think about your ex and you don't hate them in some way? How many have these amicable breakups where they're still friends? We respect each other. We call each other for the holidays, or we call each other on birthdays. How many people really have that? I mean, not that that is something that I would recommend, because you should focus on the person you're currently with. It's supposed to be the best one. It's supposed to be someone that you end up with and you're going to stay with, not something from the past, a former love. But what I'm saying is that they usually end pretty sour and bitter, which tells you that you just have to leave it. You have to make some distance away from it. Apparently Jodi Arias never was able to do that. Something very twisted in her thinking, and that's what drove him to go all the way from Northern California with a plan to set him up, get real angry, viciously do what she did. So that's my final word on this. I didn't mention forgiveness because forgiveness is something you're under the authority of Christ at that point. But if you haven't asked for that, and if both parties are not within that, then it's not worth discussing. I know it's also said, connected with forgiveness, that you should make your enemies into your friends, but that's an entire involved process. And you should do this. You should make at least one example in your life that you've done this and you've experienced it and you've earned the reward from it. But can we do it with the person that we expected to spend our entire life with, and we see them as completely betraying us? I guess she couldn't. But we also had to cast that one out. Look how they cast out Judas after he did what he did to Jesus. It's human nature. Not everything is forgiveness. Forgiveness is not always humanly possible. Give me some feedback if you disagree with this, or if you want to say anything about the Jodi Arias, Travis Alexander tragedy. Thanks. Share this with all your friends.